Hi everyone and welcome to Hustle Season. I am so excited to be back and filming another video, and today we will be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. It is early June and I thought we should reflect a little together. Also, I don't know if you can tell, but I've been gifted a ring light, and so today is my first day filming with a ring light. And while it is super cool and I definitely feel like a YouTuber now, it is also extremely blinding. And I don't know if that just means the setting is too high, but if anybody uses one, please let me know. But without further ado, here's the tag. So question one, they're starting with a bang, is the best book that you have read so far this year. And I am, for those who care, working with 22 books. So I've read 22, that is my pool from which I'm choosing. And if I had to pick one, sorry if I look down a bit, I'll be looking at my screen. Would it be cheating if I actually chose a book that I'm in the middle of? I actually debated, now that I'm thinking about it, I did debate just finishing this book because it's pretty short before doing this tag, so that I could probably, I predict that it'll be my favorite. But I decided to kind of keep it real. But anyways, I have chosen this book, so An Emotion of Great Delight by Tahari Mafi. Now I'm only on page 144. It's about 200 something pages, so I'm like just over halfway. And while I can't conclusively say it is my favorite so far of the year, it is my favorite of the year, and I have loved it so much. It has just been so relatable in different ways. I love the writing, I love the prose, it's just so beautiful. Like even the first page, I wish I could just read it all to you. I won't, but if I could, you would think it's really, really beautiful. It's just great. It is an emotional read, it is about grief. It has some Persian rep. It talks about wearing a hijab, which I will also say, obviously I cannot comment on this because I am neither Muslim nor do I wear a hijab, but I think she gets a lot of criticism for how she represents women wearing hijabs and how she represents Muslim women, and I just don't get it. I kind of understand from the point of view that, maybe she's not representing the type of Islam that is the most common, but sometimes I wonder if people don't recognize that, at least when it comes to Persians, I think that there is a cultural aspect to how they practice religion that is not necessarily present with the other ethnicities that practice Islam. And I only say that because, at least in Iran, I don't know the history for other countries necessarily, but at least in Iran, Islam was forced on people. And there were some people who actually were Muslim and were practicing beforehand. And there are some people who, over time, or having grown up in Iran after it became an Islamic regime, are truly practicing and that is their faith. But there's a lot of people who culturally picked up things from Islam, but never were actually real followers. And a lot of them then left the country after the Islamic revolution happened. And so I wonder if there's just a cultural component to how some Persians practice Islam. But anyways, that is just me thinking out loud. But even if you take that aside, she's talking about her own experiences, and she practices and she wears a hijab and she talks about her experiences, and I just don't understand why we constantly say that that's not valid. I actually think the parts where she's doing the Persian rep and some of the experiences she talks about are otherwise really true. I absolutely love this book, and unless something crazy happens in the second half that would make me hate this book, I am on my way to absolutely loving it and for it to be my favorite so far of 2021. Question number two, the best sequel you've read so far in 2021. And just to let you know, the sequels that I have read are Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert, books 2, 3, and 4 in the Fever series by Karen Marie Moning, volumes 2 and 3 of Astro Lost in Space, volumes 2 and 3 of Spy X Family, I guess volume 2 of Blood on the Tracks, volume 3 of Fence, The Dragon Republic, The Sky and the Storm, I've read a ton, and Kingdom of Ash. Oh my god. I think that's the most sequels I've read in a year, ever. At least it feels that way. I think if I had to choose the best one, I'll just hold up the newest one that I've gotten. But I would say volumes 2 and 3 of Spy X Family. I have a whole video on it, but essentially I picked these up randomly. Honestly, they have been the best thing to happen to me this year. They're so adorable, they're so cute, they are everything. They're like the best escape from COVID, although hopefully soon we won't need one. But in case anybody cares, it's about a spy, and for his mission he has to build a fake family, and the members of his fake family end up being an assassin and a telepath, and it's just like all these shenanigans that happen, and everybody's like keeping secrets from each other, and it's just so wonderful, so great. I'm sure 4 will also be good, but 2 and 3 were great. So if you want to try a new series, highly recommend. Okay, so question 3, I'm going very slowly. Question 3 is a new release you haven't read yet, but want to. I don't follow like what's coming out too much for me to be like, oh, I have this book that, you know, I'm really anticipating. But some recent ones that I just bought that I'm excited to read. I got Dial A for Aunties. I just think this is going to be really funny, and I'm really excited to read this. Hopefully, you know, maybe not at a beach, but like with that aesthetic, like sitting outside, maybe by the water with an iced coffee, enjoying myself, a beautiful sunny day. You know, it'll just be good times. And then another one that I recently bought, so new for me because I bought it today. I think it came out like 2-3 years ago. Oh, even more, 2013. Okay, totally not new release, but new book for me that I want to read is called Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. And if you don't know, recently in Canada there was this whole thing where they found the graves of 215 unnamed Indigenous children, and so recently, at least in the Canadian news, they've been kind of talking about how with the history of residential schools that we should be looking for, or at least acknowledging the fact that there were tons of children who were essentially just murdered for being Indigenous, and who have gone totally unnamed. And while honestly, like, there's nothing that I could like say to make that better, I kind of use it as an opportunity, kind of like how when the whole BLM movement was happening, I know that people were using that as an opportunity to uplift voices as well as educate themselves. And so I was kind of like, you know what, I did have a goal this year of reading one work by an Indigenous author, which I did do. I thought, you know, like, why stop there? Maybe I should continue educating myself. And so I opted to pick a nonfiction book. And so Braiding Sweetgrass, apparently the author, she has studied, I don't know exactly what, but some type of biology relating to plants. And so she basically uses stories about plants. But so it's like both a history of Indigenous culture and different lore that she kind of grew up with, but on top of that she'll also mix in like actual scientific facts from her studies, and it's supposed to be like you coming to learn and love and appreciate the land which you live on. I did a only semi-decent job of explaining that, but it is very cool. I've only read the first little bit, but I'm very looking forward to actually getting the chance to read this fully. So yeah. So number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Again, I honestly, like, I have no idea what's coming out the second half of the year or if I'm excited for any of them. Volume 5 of Spy X Family just came out. Volume 6 will come out later this year. Can I go with that? Yeah, I don't have an answer for that. 5, biggest disappointment. That one I do have an answer for. Earlier this year, I decided that as some kind of weird comfort read, I was going to try to read an old paranormal fantasy because, I don't know, I thought like it would get me out of not even out of a slump. I just felt like I was working so hard at work that I really didn't want to work to read, you know? Which sounds like shade, but I think it's more a commentary on the fact that I really like paranormal romances. I know how they work. I don't have to think about it. It's like a world that I have lived in many times. So anyways, I tried to read Fever by Karen Marie Moning. And while it started off decently strong, like I really liked the first book, the entire series just went on to disappoint me. Specifically, book 4 was probably the most disappointing. If you have read it, there is some stuff that happens in the beginning of book 4 that is just, it was just the epitome of everything that this book is, which to me, everything that this book is basically a young girl entering an abusive relationship, and it is partly romanticized and partly just disregarded as a thing, and her like life circumstances are just so absolutely shitty that her best option is to remain in this abusive relationship. To me, that is the essence of this like whole series, and it was just so hard to read. Like, you know, I understand that dark romance is a thing. I've since looked it up after reading this just to see why people like this, and after reading like books like Grown, for example, where you flat out see how somebody is groomed and, you know, what type of tactics people use to get you into an abusive relationship, you know, and then I read this and it's just like so blatantly in my face that she is entering a horribly abusive relationship. And that was it. And like, yeah, it was just so hard to read. Like, it was just so abusive sometimes and just so obviously bad for her that I couldn't really enjoy it. I personally also didn't think that the love interest has much of a personality. Like, he's hot and brooding, and I get that, but like, I want like a little bit more, you know, like just something. But he has nothing other than he is like an alpha male and, again, dark and brooding. Like, there is nothing to this man. Although apparently in book 5 you get a little bit more, but I don't even know if I want to finish the series. Like, I kind of stopped after book 4 and took a break, and one day maybe I will read 5. I will say, like, the series has really cool world building for a paranormal romance, and I did think that overall, like, I like some of the characters and I do find it easy to read, and it's definitely the type of thing where like you want to know what happens next. But it's hard for me when, like, I personally, when I read paranormal fantasies, I guess, like, I really like the romance aspect of it, and I have to really want to ship those characters. For me, that's like what keeps me wanting to read the book. And because I don't really ship them 100%, it kind of took away from some of the magic of the book for me. But yeah, I do know that it has a super strong following, and I guess give it a try if you want. Where are we at? Question 6. Biggest surprise. Maybe for this one, for biggest surprise, I'm gonna go with Fence Volume 3. This, I am kind of cheating because I was not surprised about how much I did or didn't like the book. I loved it. What I am surprised about is that after Volume 4, it just stops. And what I am also surprised about is that nobody seems to tell anybody, online at least, that once you've read the first 4 volumes, there are no further ones. And I don't think that the story ends. Maybe I should have fact-checked that before I go on this rant, but I don't think that it does end, because there's just no way that in one more volume we get to where we need to be based on how far the story has gone in the last 3. So anyways, there's no longer going to be any like comic books, and they have since moved to like full-blown like books, like written in words, not drawn. And, you know, personally, like, I don't think I'm going to read these books, although obviously I'd like to know how it ends. And I was really like liking the story, so it's kind of upsetting. You know, it's like a show that you start, you get invested, and then there's just like, it gets canceled for some reason. I maybe should look into why this got canceled or why they switched, but it's not going to continue as a comic book. And I don't know that enough people know that. Or maybe they know and they don't care. But yeah, that's my biggest surprise. Okay, next question. Favorite new author, debut, or new to you? So my favorite new author would probably have to be Emily Henry. I read Beach Read this year and I really loved it, like more than I thought I would. It like gave me that angsty, grieving feeling that I like. That makes no sense, but lately I've been really drawn to, well, not lately, I think like over the last couple of years, I've been very drawn to books about grieving, and I really liked the portrayal in this. I like loved how angsty their relationship was. It kind of gave me Letters to the Lost vibes, but not quite at that level. Like, Letters to the Lost is at that level for the whole book. This one, it has a bit of like rom-com-y elements, and at times it takes you there. And I would say quite a bit, like enough that I liked the book, but it's not like full-blown 100% angst. But for a romance, it was great because they don't usually have this much sad angstiness. So, you know, honestly, I guess because of that, some people might hate it. Because if you're going in for like a fluffy, happy romance, maybe don't pick this up. But if you want like the world is dark, but I still want happiness, this is the book for you. All right, next question. Newest fictional crush. I mean, there's no one obviously that I'm like genuinely crushing on, but like there's definitely some people who, if they existed in real life, I would highly suggest you date them. And I'm looking at them, but obviously Jacob from Act Your Age, Eve Brown, he would be a good candidate. Why am I forgetting his name? Patrick? How many pages do I have to look at till I see him. Oh, Patrick, yes. Okay, Patrick from Yoke, obviously he'd be a great person that you could date. Or I guess they're talking about me. And then the main character Twilight from this book, that'd be kind of fun and cool. Like Gus from this, I guess, also could be a good one. Anyways, question 9 is newest favorite character. Sorry to make this whole video about Spy X Family, but it is really just that good. But I would say Anya is my newest favorite character. And second to Anya would probably be the mother, and I am forgetting, Yor. I think her name is Yor. The mother is also super badass. She's the assassin, and then Anya is the telepath, and her like shenanigans at this elite school that she has to go to, just so good. And like the fact that she can read everybody's minds, and like she just causes so much trouble with it, but like in a good way, and it's just, yeah. We are reaching the finish line. A book that made you cry. I mean, I've already told you so far, Beach Read made me cry. And then An Emotion of Great Delight definitely made me cry. And I will say An Emotion of Great Delight made me cry probably at like 2 in the afternoon, you know, which I think is harder to do than like crying at 4 a.m. because you're staying up reading, or like crying post-call because you're already tired. You know, this one, I don't think I was post-call. I don't think I was lacking sleep. It was just like so beautifully written that I started crying. And I will leave it at that. Okay, 11, book that made you happy. I would say After Age, Eve Brown probably made me the happiest. It was also my favorite of like that trilogy, so highly recommend. 12, most beautiful book you've bought so far this year. I think the 2 most beautiful that I bought this year were probably Yoke and An Emotion of Great Delight. But since I've already spoken about these and I want to talk about some other books, I'll give you some bonus answers. Another one that I was really excited for was The Stationery Shop. I saw this on Hannah's channel, and since it's about Persians, I was like, absolutely, I need to read it. And if I really like it, I'm then going to give it to my mom and see how she feels about it, because it's literally like her era. So I'm really excited to see how that goes. And then, while this is not, I guess, like conventionally beautiful, the story of how I found this book was beautiful, kind of. But one day while I was on ICU, I went to get my coffee in the morning, as I usually do, and in the hospital they have like a tuck shop where you can buy books, and all the books are $2 usually. And it doesn't even matter like how old, new, high value or low value the book is, they will just sell it for $2. And this is a book that I've wanted to buy like for a very long time, actually. So I've always been interested in history, and I've always wanted to be able to read a historical nonfiction book. I had never actually been able to. I almost read that one about guns, germs, and steel, something like that. But I just, every time I've tried, I haven't been able to. I'm like interested, but not that interested. Point being, I have never felt comfortable paying full price, because I'm like, you know, I'm just not going to do it. Like, history has shown time and time again that you're not going to finish the book. But with this one, it was $2. I was just so excited. I got it. And this is one that I had previously wanted to read. So I was just so excited, because I'm not going to feel bad if I don't. And I've already read at least like 43 pages. So I'm 43 pages in. That is better than I expected. If I can even get close to finishing this book, I'll be so happy. So yeah, so it is beautiful for that reason. I personally do think it is actually beautiful. But not only that, it was a beautiful find. It like made my day, and it was steel, etc., etc., and so that's why I've chosen it. Okay, I think with that I'm done. No, maybe? Oh my god. Okay, so question 13. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? I don't really have an answer for this question. There's tons of books that I want to read, but I don't really want to make my whole video about a TBR. So what I will say is the only book I think that I like absolutely have to finish is The Stone Sky, because I'm buddy reading it with Isabel. But aside from that, I guess I will just quickly use this question as like a mild check-in in terms of reading goals. And I think that I had initially, like, I don't know that I've ever said it, but like subconsciously I had this goal of doing like half the authors or half the books that I read over the course of the year to be by non-white authors. And so far I've been like doing okay, but I think I'm like just borderline. And the problem is a lot of the series that I end up reading are usually by a white author. And I find like a lot of my comfort reads end up being by a white author. Like for example, this whole fever business. And I think if I wasn't reading manga this year, then like my not white count would definitely be a lot lower. So I guess moving forward this year, I'm just gonna try to be like even better and like be more accountable and try to reach for diverse reads. But other than that, there's like no book that I have to read by the end of the year because I don't believe in boxing yourself. I'm kidding. Okay, thank you. That is the end of my video. I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, I hope you have a wonderful summer or winter, depending on where you live. Goodbye.